Shift, Managing Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You by Dr. Ethan Kross. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving deep into Shift, Managing Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You by Dr. Ethan Kross, a practical, science-backed guide that reframes how we think about emotions and gives us concrete, usable tools to steer our emotional lives rather than be steered by them. In this video-length summary, I'll walk you through the book's central ideas, why they matter, the main strategies Kross calls shifters, how to choose the right strategy at the right time, and some real-world ways to put these ideas into practice so you can show up calmer, clearer, and more capable in the moments that matter. This is a long, detailed breakdown meant to be read or used as a script for your channel. So settle in. We'll move through theory, vivid examples, and step-by-step application. Sources for the core ideas include Kross's own description of the book and interviews he's given about it. Kross opens by emphasizing a simple but powerful premise. Emotions are not random enemies to be defeated. They evolved tools that provide information and motivate behavior. The problem, he argues, is not that we have emotions, but that we often lack reliable, flexible methods to manage their intensity and duration. Instead of prescribing one right way to handle feelings, such as always sitting with them mindfully or always regulating them away, Kross invites us to think in terms of shifting, deliberately using the resources available to us in body, mind, relationships, and environment to change how a feeling moves through us. This approach is both normative and pragmatic. Emotions tell us something useful, and shifters are the levers we can pull to make those signals serve us better rather than overwhelm us. A big theme of the book is myth-busting. Kross takes aim at prevailing oversimplified ideas about emotional life. For example, the blanket claim that avoidance is always harmful, or that suppression is always toxic, or that mindfulness is the universal cure-all. Instead, he presents evidence and stories that show emotional regulation is context-dependent. Sometimes stepping away, a temporary strategic avoidance, gives your psychological immune system space to heal. Other times, approaching a feeling, naming it, and reframing it is best. The point is not to choose approach versus avoidance dogmatically, but to develop a flexible toolkit and the judgment to use each tool when it fits the situation. This flexible stance is one of the book's most liberating offerings because it removes shame around failing to meditate or around needing distraction and replaces it with a functional question: which shifter will help me right now? Kross organizes his toolkit into clear categories of shifters, interventions that reroute an emotional response. He differentiates internal shifters, things you do inside your head or body, external shifters, changes in your environment or behavior, and social cultural shifters, how other people and shared practices shape feeling. Internal shifters include tactics like attention shifting, deliberately redirecting focus, perspective shifting, rethinking the meaning of an event, and sensory interventions, using music, movement, or breathing to change physiological state. External shifters might involve altering your physical space, introducing rituals, or structuring your day to reduce triggers and increase restorative moments. Social shifters emphasize the power of connection, sharing your feelings with someone who helps you reframe them, drawing on trusted relationships to anchor you, and deliberately choosing social contexts that nudge emotion in healthier directions. Kross's taxonomy is designed to be actionable. Each shifter has clear, simple examples you can try immediately. One of the book's most useful ideas is that many shifters work by changing the trajectory of an emotion rather than eliminating it. Imagine emotions as trains on tracks. You can't always remove the train, but you can change the track it's on, slow it down, or redirect it so it pulls into a station rather than barreling into a cliff. Sensory shifters: a song that lifts your mood, a brisk walk, a warmth on your face, change the body's state and often produce immediate relief. Cognitive shifters: naming what you feel, writing about it, or applying a reappraisal, change how your brain interprets the event, often reducing intensity and clarifying next steps. Behavioral shifters: routines, pre-commitments, or restructuring situations, change the probability of future emotional swings. In sum, Kross reframes emotion work as engineering the flow of feeling, using diverse, sometimes small, interventions that accumulate into better emotional outcomes. Kross also highlights the science behind why shifters work, drawing on psychology and neuroscience to explain mechanisms like attention selection, memory reconsolidation, and social regulation. For example, attention shifters function because attention itself is a scarce cognitive resource. What you attend to amplifies. By redirecting attention to a constructive object or activity, you reduce the cognitive fuel that feeds rumination. Perspective shifters, including techniques similar to cognitive reappraisal, operate by activating alternative appraisals that compete with the original interpretation. And over time, these new appraisals can change how memories are stored and retrieved. Social shifters leverage oxytocin and the calming effect of trusted others. The mere presence of supportive people can reduce threat-related neural activity. Kross's point is practical but rooted in empirical work. These aren't just feel-good prescriptions. They're interventions with measurable effects on the brain and behavior. A cornerstone of the book is learning how to choose among shifters. Kross offers guidance for matching strategy to context. Ask whether the emotion is acute or chronic, whether it's triggered by a problem you can solve, and whether social resources are available. If a feeling is acute and overwhelming, short-term sensory or attention shifters, a walk, a playlist, a breathing rhythm, can give you the immediate space to think. If a feeling is tied to a solvable problem, example, a relationship disagreement, approach-oriented strategies combined with perspective shifts and planning may be preferable. If the emotion is rumination about something out of your control, giving your psychological immune system time via healthy distraction and meaning-making might be the adaptive route. Kross repeatedly emphasizes that good emotional management is less about rigid rules and more about situational judgment and experimentation. Throughout the book, Kross peppers in vivid case studies that illustrate the varied shape of emotional life. Athletes who learn to use rituals to steady nerves, caregivers who discover when to lean on others and when to conserve energy, and professionals who design environments that reduce stress contagion. These stories serve two purposes. They humanize the science, and they model how ordinary people apply shifters in messy, real-world contexts. Importantly, Kross doesn't present success as a one-time victory, but as a series of micro-shifts. Repeated choices that over time build resilience and recalibrate how life's inevitable slings and arrows affect you. The takeaway is practical humility. You can get better at managing emotion, but it's a practice, not a permanent fix. Kross also delves into the role of culture and physical spaces in shaping emotional experience. Cultural scripts, what families, workplaces, or communities normalize about showing emotion, fundamentally shape whether people feel safe to use certain shifters. Workplaces that valorize constant availability may make restorative shifters like breaks or boundaries difficult to use without penalty. Physical spaces matter too. Cluttered, noisy, or harshly lit environments amplify stress, while thoughtfully arranged spaces and small rituals can reduce reactivity. In practice, this means one of the most powerful forms of emotional self-management is environmental design. Choosing or modifying spaces and routines so that the default options nudge you toward emotional stability. This systems-level thinking expands responsibility beyond the individual. To change emotional life sustainably, we often need to change structures and norms as well. Another practical chapter in the book covers how to have better conversations about emotion with kids, partners, coworkers, or clinicians. Kross advises a combination of timing, language, and scaffolding. Match the strategy to the listener. Be specific about the feeling rather than vague or accusatory, and use if-then planning to translate insight into action. For parents, he suggests modeling shifters for children. Example, using music to shift a mood or narrating one's own emotion management, so kids learn emotional skills by watching rather than only being lectured. For leaders, he encourages designing feedback cultures that normalize emotional discussion, while avoiding pathologizing normal responses. Across contexts, the principle is the same. Emotions are social, and harnessing social practices, naming, validating, and co-creating plans, turns relationships into a powerful emotional resource rather than a source of contagion. Kross is careful about common pitfalls. He warns against using distraction as permanent avoidance, because while distraction can give temporary relief, it can also forestall necessary problem-solving if used reflexively. He cautions that cognitive reframing needs to be genuine and not a quick rationalization that ignores real harms. And he emphasizes that some emotions are signals of structural problems. For instance, chronic workplace stress rooted in bad policy. And the right response may be advocacy and change rather than individual coping. These cautions are important because they make the book ethically grounded. The aim is not to soothe people into complacency, but to equip them to act effectively for their own and others' flourishing. For viewers wanting concrete, ready-to-use tactics, Kross provides a handful of accessible practices you can test this week. Start by naming the emotion precisely. Avoid the catch-all label, "I'm upset," and opt for "I'm embarrassed," "I'm disappointed," or "I'm anxious," because precise naming reduces intensity and reveals actionable causes. Pair naming with a short perspective exercise. Ask, "What would I tell a friend in this situation?" Or imagine you're looking back on the moment from next month. Both practices tend to reduce emotional heat. Try a sensory shifter when feeling immediate overwhelm. Stand, move, hum, or put on a song that reliably shifts your mood. Use a social shifter by reaching out to a trusted person not for advice, but to narrate and externalize the feeling. And finally, experiment with modifying your environment. Declutter, change lighting, or schedule micro breaks to see how structural shifts change your emotional baseline. These are simple, repeatable actions that illustrate the book's broader philosophy. Small, well-chosen shifts add up. Kross also emphasizes measurement and iteration. Emotional skill building is an empirical process. Try a strategy. Observe whether the feeling's intensity, duration, or consequences change, and adjust accordingly. Keep a short log if you want to speed learning. Note what you tried, how long relief lasted, and whether any ripple effects occurred. E.g., did taking a walk reduce immediate anxiety but lead to less problem-solving later? Over weeks, you'll learn which shifters reliably help you and which backfire. And you'll develop a personalized emotional toolkit that fits your temperament and life circumstances. This experimental mindset removes blame from failure. If a tactic doesn't work, it's data, not proof of moral weakness, and replaces it with curiosity. Before wrapping up the conceptual takeaways, it's worth highlighting one more ethical and social point Kross makes. Emotional management is not just a private good, it has public consequences. How we handle anger, grief, envy, or joy shapes the people around us. Learning to shift well makes us better neighbors, partners, and colleagues because we are less likely to project distress or escalate conflict. Moreover, when organizations and communities adopt pro-regulation norms, providing breaks, normalizing therapy, designing humane schedules, they create environments where individuals' shifters are easier to use. So while the book gives you personal tactics, it also invites you to think about the collective conditions that either support or undermine emotional health. In short, Shift is a pragmatic manual for emotional engineering. It asks readers to move beyond moralizing about feelings and towards skillful, context-sensitive action. The call to action is clear. Identify your go-to responses, expand your repertoire of shifters, and practice matching strategies to circumstances. Over time, this yields two big benefits: reduced suffering in the present moment and improved decision-making capacity for the future. The book's strength lies in its blend of storytelling and science, and in its insistence that emotional competence is learnable, measurable, and socially embedded. If you want a quick starter checklist from the ideas above, try these micro-habits tomorrow. 1. Name your dominant emotion in the morning and evening. 2. Pick one sensory shifter, music, movement, or breath, to use when feeling acute stress. 3. Schedule a single small environmental tweak. Clear your desk, add a lamp, take a 10-minute walk break. And 4. Reach out once this week to a supportive person, not to fix a problem, but to narrate and externalize a feeling. These 4 low-friction moves instantiate Kross's core thesis and will help you begin turning theoretical insight into everyday practice. To conclude, Ethan Kross's shift gives us a humane, research-based framework for managing emotions that privileges flexibility, social support, and environmental design over rigid rules about what good emotion work looks like. It invites you to experiment, to treat emotions as information, and to get pragmatic about the tools you use to respond. If you apply even a few of the shifters consistently, you'll likely find yourself less reactive, more purposeful, and better able to handle life's inevitable emotional storms. Thanks for sticking with this long summary. If you enjoyed it and want full episode show notes with links to the book, a short printable shifters checklist, and timestamps for each section, let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, please like the video, leave a comment about which shifter you'll try this week, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future deep dives into books that help you live better. See you next time. Take care and permit yourself to experiment with one small shift today.